Call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. This is a Prescott City Council voting meeting. Today we have an invocation by Rabbi Julie Kozlow with Temple Ber Shalom, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Good. Rabbi?
Hello, everybody. My name is Julie Kozlow, and I'm the rabbi and the spiritual leader of Temple B'rith Shalom here in Prescott. It's an honor for me to have this sacred task of offering invocation at this gathering. To our Mayor Greg Mangarelli, Alexa Scholl, our Mayor Pro Tem, and to the devoted members of the City Council's chamber. Those of us committed to public service well know that with any great vision comes great responsibility. The model of good governance by which you so passionately define your mission is indeed a foundation of all good and vital government. I feel that it is my duty today to offer words of the highest ethical imperative, as to remind each of you to bring yourselves to the center of your mission, to the essence of your commitment, and to the privilege of your station. The City Council and their staff are here for the sole purpose of being in service to the residents of this beautiful city, and this is no small charge. Your singular voice must speak for all. Your passion for a healthy, inclusive, compassionate, and vibrant community must reach to all those residing within this jurisdiction. May it be God's will that the highest good continues to inspire your actions. May it be God's will that the love of all God's creatures motivates your highest humanity and concern for the most vulnerable. May it be God's will that you are led by the imperative for the striving of the greatest good for all as you gather to create policy and initiate vibrant life here for everyone in everyone's hometown of Prescott. May it be God's will that the work of your hands and the convictions of your hearts lead you on this continued road of prosperity and welcome for all. May God guide your steps in strength, with strength and clarity of vision to see the road that lies ahead towards an even brighter future for all. And with gratitude for all that you do, I wish you strength, insight, and God's grace. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of our great republic? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate your attendance and support. Let's call roll, please.
Mayor Mangarelli.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Scholl. Here. Councilman Blair.
Here.
Councilman Good.
Here.
Councilman Barusing.
Yeah.
Councilman Sischka.
Here.
And Councilman Tenney.
Here.
All are present.
Very good. Thank you. So let's go to consent agenda. Are there any items that any members would like to pull from consent today?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember.
I'd like to pull items 6D and 6E, please.
Okay, 6D and E. Anyone else? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items A through F, except D and E.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Rusine, item D.
This involves Walden Ranch. I guess it's Walden Ranch now. And I went out there yesterday and took a look at it, and I was just wondering if we could get some clarity. For example, I guess this didn't need to go to planning and zoning first.
This proposal did not. It
Okay.
would be an administrative proposal, so they've moved some lot lines around, reduced a couple of the lot sizes to make them smaller, and created a couple of open space parcels that weren't there before. You'll notice on the maps that we gave you, there's a tract Q
Yes.
on the original that's become tract Q1 through tract Q4 on there.
Okay.
They've separated them out for responsibility of maintenance of various phases.
Is your mic not on?
It doesn't. I guess I
Okay,
need to be
there.
closer.
Better. Thank you.
The lot boundary changes, the tract changes would be handled administratively, except for one aspect, and that is they're creating no vehicular access easements between the parcels and the tracks. And those easements are dedicated to the city generally, and any easement dedicated to the city generally comes through this process. So the only reason it's before you today is because they're creating these no access easements to prevent property owners from creating driveways into open space tracks.
So on lot 73, which is actually not really a lot, it's just the big scar on the side of the hill, what is that zoned as?
All of the properties is zoned the same, so it's single family 9 or 12,
And
various parts of it. So that is a lot, and you can expect a house construction to occur on it.
but with all the grading that took place, did the developer have to get a permit to create that massive scar there? Because it looks like the hill was cannibalized and the dirt pushed out to create some building pads over there by the creek that was in the flood zone. Apparently, it looks like it was built up. So was there no permit
Yes.
issued for him in order to do that to a residentially zoned?
Definitely, yes. So as part of the subdivision platting process, they have engineering plans, grading and drainage plans, and permits associated with those grading and drainage plans were issued and are either complete or still in process because there's still some streets and grading being done.
And then this tract Q, why is it being developed into 4 tracks? What's the purpose of cutting it up like that?
So the tracks are open space tracks.
Are they zoned open space?
They're not zoned open space. So in most of our subdivisions, tracks are established on the plat as to their purpose, their open space or their retention or drainage, something like that. So they're open space tracks, and they are split because there are 2 phases to the subdivision that have that share a boundary right there. Portions of those tracks will be the maintenance responsibility of each of the phases. So 2 of them will be in phase 2. Maintenance responsibility 2 will be phase 3 maintenance responsibility.
So in reality, track Q and 1, 2, 3, 4 now is not really zoned open space.
No. None of the open spaces within subdivisions are regularly zoned open space. They're typically zoned the same as the subdivision itself.
Okay, and then the last question, tract 70, which is on top of the hill there. Do you have any ideas what's going on with that?
Again, it's a residential lot, so expect a house on lot 70.
Okay.
The net result of the changes is actually a plus to the number of open space tract acres. It's enlarged somewhat, and the 2 lots, 70 and 73, are reduced in size somewhat.
Because the Q tract is like borders the Fippen, and it's on the side of the hill. So, but technically, since it's not zoned open space, if he wanted to put a road in there or do something, he could, right?
It's designated as open space on the tract, so I think they would need to amend the subdivision to create something other than a simple maintenance access. So they could create a maintenance access to those open space tracts.
Okay, I just had some questions about that, and then moving on to 6.
So before we move on, is there anything else members want to ask on? Yeah.
So this is not increasing the number of lots in Walden Farms.
No, it actually leaves the same number of lots in both phases as that exist today.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this item before we move on? And then I would entertain a motion on this item if not.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda item 6D.
Second. We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Roosing, item E.
Okay, thank you. This involves the preserve at Prescott, and I just had some concerns because I've never really seen this where you have a residential lot that's in a subdivision boundary, and then the residential zoned lot in a subdivision now is going to be taken out of the subdivision by the applicant so that he can put a road in and utilities to some undeveloped land that's adjacent. And it doesn't show it on my plat. I was wondering if you could tell me the square footage, how many acres these new lots are going to be. I believe it's going to be 2 more lots.
There will be, you're right. It's unusual for us to take a lot out of a subdivision. Normally, we're adding lots into subdivisions through a revision of plat. So it's a little bit unusual to have the circumstances, but we've done it in other cases. Some cases, you transfer from one subdivision to another where 2 subdivisions adjoin. In this case, the lot would come out of the subdivision and become an unsubdivided parcel that will, in the future, be connected to another unsubdivided parcel that's south of that lot, to create a frontage on Westridge Drive that would allow the unsubdivided lot to be split into 3 parcels for residential development. So there would be a total of 3 residences, where today there are 2 lots, 1 unsubdivided and 16R that's coming out of the subdivision.
And what's the zoning on this adjacent property? Do you know how many acres? Is it like?
I don't know how many acres it is. The zoning is 35, SF 35, which requires almost an acre per lot. That would be a future subdivision or a future property split once this occurs.
And this
to create lots, you have to have frontage on a public street in order to get utilities and street connection to those streets. The only way this parcel can get that connection is through 16R. The original subdivision plat set aside a very narrow strip of property that would allow this access, but it's impractical. If you've been in that area, you know all of it is full of rocks, and the small strip of property that they set aside wouldn't allow for a full-width fire lane, and they're not building a street. It's a fire lane and driveway to serve the 3 lots. You simply couldn't get a 20-foot fire lane in through the space that was left. So 16R became mandatory for the owner and proposed developer of the property to the south.
Why didn't this go to planning and zoning?
Again, it's not required to do so through our land development code. Any changes to the final plat are the purview of council.
Well, this property is located pretty much right in the heart of town, and it's basically a vertical wall of beautiful granite boulders. And I certainly support private property rights and the owner's right to develop his property. But I just would like to say that this property is right in the view shed, and it's really it's like a mini Granite Dells in there, and it's really too bad that our city staff didn't give us a heads up and work with us and with the developer and give him a chance to open space that tract of property, because once it gets scarred, it's going to be scarred forever. And it would have been, it's just, people wonder why we're destroying our natural beauty, and we certainly have the funds to work with the developers. So I was going to ask if we could make a motion to postpone this and go back to the owner and ask him if he would consider letting the city purchase it for open space so that we could preserve it. Because once he puts in his, it's going to be hard it's going to look like a strip mine in there. I hate to say it, with all the boulders. So I was just wondering if anyone would support a motion to just postpone it so we could talk about it some more and see what he thinks. At least give it a try. And if he says no, fine. That's his right.
So you're making a motion to postpone this item?
Yes, so that we can approach the owner about purchasing his property with open space funds.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table.
I got a comment. We're talking about...
Hold on. There's a motion, so there either has to be a second or before any comments are made.
So I have a motion. Is there a second? There's not. So that motion
dies for lack of a second.
Okay. Councilman Blair.
Just so people are aware that, the whole strip mining adage and making it look like hell, so to speak, that whole preserve area that's built in the rocks, is nothing but a beautiful area of hundreds of $1,000 homes. By the way, Tom Devereaux is getting ready to donate a piece of property across the street to the city for parking for the trail access in that neighborhood. And he also donated all the trail access in that neighborhood. This is a total separate individual that wants to develop 3 lots. There's a stone gate that's behind that, which has roughly about 88 lots. That's never come before the city of Prescott. That goes back to 1998 when they decided they did not want to be a part of any of that development up there. So it still sits as open space with somebody owning it. And I do support private property rights, and I give this gentleman credit for wanting to develop 3 lots for the community. So I wouldn't support that ever.
Any other comments on this item?
Mayor, can I just make a general comment? Part of, the responsibility of George and the planning staff is to administratively process applications. I don't know that you've ever felt like, nor do I feel like, as a collective, it's the purview of George or Bryn to take legislative license to start deciding that an individual parcel needs to be something that's preserved. I think that is the responsibility of the city council. If there's some desire to change that process, I'd have real concerns about fairness and equity about how that's administered. So it's just a comment.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Michael. Any other comments from the council? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda item E.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-1.
All right, let's move on to consent ordinance, please.
Adoption of ordinance number 2021-1759, and ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, authorizing the purchase of real property from Manzanita Village Co-Housing HOA Inc. for a city water main extension project, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said purchase.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt consent ordinance item 7A.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Item 8, please.
Public hearing and consideration for a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license application from Rexford Jason Moffitt, applicant for Red, White, and Brew, location 200 East Gurley Street. The application fees have been paid, the signs have been posted for the required 20 days, and staff has reviewed the applications and determined that they're in compliance. No public comments have been received.
And did you say, is the applicant present? Or?
A representative was going to...
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, come on up. If you don't mind, just give us a brief description of your business.
It's a nice restaurant. We actually have one in Mesa. It's Red, White, and Brew. You can look at it. We're going to have about a 2/3 menu for now. And the hours of operation are only going to be from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. for now until we get into there. But it's exciting. I've worked for the owner for 25 years and moved back to Prescott in August, so... from Phoenix. But
nice. You drew the lucky card. You got to move to Prescott, huh?
Yep.
Good for you. Well, welcome to Prescott. Thanks for your investment in the city, and we wish you all the best on your business.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Mayor, I move to approve recommendation for liquor license number 147897 for new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Red, White, and Brew located at 200 East Gurley Street.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's move on to item 9A, please.
Public hearing regarding the City of Prescott Draft 2021 Annual Action Plan to accept CDBG entitlement funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $251,857, approve the 2021 CDBG Annual Action Plan and authorize staff submittal to HUD, and close the public hearing.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Michelle Chavez, City of Prescott CDBG coordinator. I'm here to give just a quick overview of our CDBG annual action plan. As you are aware, we are required to submit an annual action plan to HUD every year. And part of this project is it includes a 30-day public review and comment. So we came to you all the last council meeting to present the plan and the approved projects that our Citizen Advisory Committee recommended. And during that time, we have not received any additional public comments other than the comments from our Citizen Advisory Committee. Something interesting did happen from the last council meeting to this council meeting in that our HUD office contacted us and said that they had made an error in the formula, which has happened before, a small error. So we actually received a little bit more in funds than we thought we were going to receive. So what you're going to approve today is a slightly different number than what you're hopefully going to approve today is a slightly different number than what we brought back the last council meeting. We received $251,857 from HUD for our annual action plan, which is just about $3,600 more than the original allocation that they had calculated. So again, this plan is required every year. We, again, are getting approximately $251,000, and we have to divide those funds up based on HUD's requirements. So 65% can go to construction projects, 20% to administration, and 15% can go to public service. And again, our 7-member public Citizen Advisory Committee, they review all of the CDBG applications before it comes to you. They make the recommendations before it comes to you. And they're a great asset as far as getting public participation and citizen oversight to our program. The program this year is not radically different than last year's program. We're going to provide transportation for low to moderate income seniors and disabled residents. A couple new projects that are including job training and placement for low to moderate income youth. And those are new projects in the public service realm. And then in the construction realm, we have several agencies that have been have applied for funds and been funded in the past. They're working on large public facility improvement projects that go year to year. So they may be a 3-year project. That's why they come back multiple years to ask for funds. So those public facilities serve primarily low to moderate income youth, homeless, and recently homeless residents of Prescott. I apologize, this is a little blurry, but this is the breakout of the funding recommendations, and this was actually included in your packet. Your full agenda packet had this spreadsheet in a PDF, and it also included the full narrative annual action plan. But the Citizen Advisory Committee is recommending funding for public service projects, Arizona Serve of Prescott, the Launchpad Teen Center Work Readiness Program, People Who Care, which is a agency that's been funded in the past, and a New Horizon Disability Center. They're also recommending funding for some continuing construction rehab projects at Agape House, PASS, Prescott Area Shelter Services, the Launchpad, the Boys and Girls Club of Central Arizona. So these are all multi-year capital campaigns to improve facilities for services to residents. So the next steps to this project is to submit to HUD for approval, and then after we get approval from the council, and then we work with the agencies who get the grants on. We complete a contract. We do an environmental assessment. We talk about, we're going to actually do a training for all of the agencies on what the requirements are of the program. And then once all of the contracts and notice to proceed have been signed and the environmental reviews have been done, then we can actually move forward with kickoff of the program year, which is July 1. So that is the end of my presentation. I will be glad to accept questions. There's 3 recommended actions before you today.
Thank you, Michelle. Questions, comments from the council? Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. That was a very good presentation. And I'm just curious, I know that this is a lot of work to administer, but what % of the funds are spent on administrative costs?
Councilmember Rusing, we're not allowed to spend any more than 20% on admin.
Okay, so you assume you're spending less than that, or?
We pretty much keep it capped at right about that.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments from the council? Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, as you know, I was the CDBG liaison for a number of years. And one of the comments I made at the last presentation where you weren't here is that having some of these agencies understand how to properly navigate the qualification requirements makes them frequently multi-year applicants. And I know you did a lot of work trying to get more information out to the community at large to make sure that many more of the organizations that would benefit from some of these grants would be able to understand how to go about this, how to apply, and be able to get the grants that I think should be more broadly awarded throughout the community. I see, looking back over the last 4 or 5 years, really, that there were many of these organizations are repeat applicants and repeat awardees, just because you're not getting enough people interested in the program or understanding that they are eligible and can go through the process and can get the awards. So how best to do that? I know that your efforts have been pretty diligent in trying to spread the word and get the community organizations aware of it, but it doesn't seem to be working very well. In addition to that, when you award a recipient a particular amount for a project, being able to measure their ability to actually complete the work and then be held accountable for making sure that their goals are met. And I'll use the Launchpad Teen Center as an example, where they're doing workforce readiness program. How do we know that they're actually getting the workforce that they're supposed to be readying for job placement? And I think for most of these, they're teens or young adults, to make sure that they're actually producing the benefit that they're claiming to have. Can you answer that question?
Thank you, Councilman Good. That's several different questions in one statement, so I'll try to get to a couple different key points that you asked. So one was, how do we get the word out more about the program? And, you know, we have some agencies who've been repeat applicants. We have done pretty extensive communication and marketing campaigns on the projects, on the program, from 2019 when I started till now. When I first began, I did hear that criticism, and I did a large push, and I had done radio ads, and I took out newspaper ads, and I did workshops, and we did the interviews with the city manager. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it right now, but we did the city manager program, and we got the same applicants back. So obviously that wasn't a hugely impactful campaign, but we did make a concerted effort. The following year, we've reached out to our same nonprofit partners, and we did some more advertising. We've gotten some additional public service applicants that we've never seen before. We got 3 new ones this year in 2021, but we didn't get new construction applicants this year. So that's something to consider. At the last Citizen Advisory Committee, we talked extensively about how to, maybe do another push this fall. And so I think we're going to do some targeted marketing to some different public agencies and folks that haven't applied before to the program. We've got our nonprofit base pretty well covered, but we'll do some targeted outreach this fall, and we'll also do like an additional workshop to try to get more people involved. One of the things I have to say about these projects are typically multi-year projects. So they're like such with the Launchpad or Boys and Girls Club or PASS. You'll see them come back year after year because they're several year projects. And then agencies like US Vets, they had a phased project as well. They did not come back this year because they've pretty much transitioned through, and completed their Whipple Street project. But I do take your feedback to heart, and I think that we will definitely work on continuing to reach some new agencies, both public and private, that maybe haven't accessed the program before. The last part of your question was about outcomes and accountability. Just briefly, all of these are legal binding contracts that we have with these agencies, and so there are clauses for completion. And there's always an option to cancel a contract if the outcomes are not being met. And we have to provide very strict outcomes to HUD. As you know, every year, in addition to a plan, we have to provide a report. And so again, with it being a legal binding contract, we're always able to cancel that contract if the outcomes aren't being met. And lastly, with regards to making sure that people are completing the projects, everything in this program is cost reimbursement basis. So nothing gets paid until we can audit the work that's being done.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I know that you've worked hard to try to get that information out and offering workshops, etc. But it seems like, and I encourage you to maybe try some different marketing approaches, and also be able to let some of these agencies know that the grant money is significant and it is there. And if they don't get discouraged because they're filling out federal forms, it's important, I think, to just broaden the benefit. So those are my comments, and I'm sure you'll work your best to continue to broaden the benefit. Thank you.
Councilman Tenney.
I appreciate Chavez, again, excellent presentation. I appreciate that, and I appreciate Councilman Good's comments and questions as well. He's the former liaison to this committee. I'm the current liaison to this committee. I would just piggyback on your comments in a couple of ways. One is that you make a good point that there needs to be a broader outreach to people regarding what's available. You heard some specific concrete plans that the committee's talked about with that, so that's a step in the right direction. I would also point out, it's worth noting that if you look at the spreadsheet we were given, there are a couple of repeat applicants who were denied what they were asking for. So it's not just a situation where somebody comes and it's an automatic rubber stamp that they get that. The committee is real thoughtful about what funds were available, and the very question of what you're talking about. These people have asked before, does this really fit into the broader needs of what the grant is applicable to, et cetera. So once again, there's some thoughtful discussion about that. We can't force people to apply, or organizations to apply, but you're right, there's some great thoughts about how we can get more people to apply. But the committee did take the applications and was very thoughtful about who applied. In some cases, the application was denied. In other cases, the application was accepted, but for a lower amount. So once again, there's thoughtful discussion about this in every case, and it's not just these people keep coming back and they keep getting money type of a situation going on. You, of course, from your experience, you know that as well, but it's worth pointing that out in public.
Other questions, comments from the council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Here I move to accept CDBG entitlement funds in the amount of $251,857 from HUD.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
I move to approve the 2021 CDBG Annual Action Plan and authorize staff submittal to HUD.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Let's go to item B, please.
Approval of city contract number 2021-10A with Technology Construction, Inc. for the State Route 69 16-inch water pipeline project, and approval of city contract number 2019-236A1, an amendment to city contract number 2019-236 with Intellis, Inc. for post-design services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Eric Bay with Public Works. This next item is pretty straightforward. It's the construction contract for the installation of a 16-inch water main in the SR69 corridor, generally located between U-Haul and Lowe's, and then the associated post-design engineering services contract to go with it. This water main, candidly, is part of the smaller Zone 56 water system improvements project, the design we brought to council several months back. But we expedited the small portion of it, and we did that for a reason. ADOT is currently planning an expansion, a widening of SR 69 through this corridor. So what we wanted to do was expedite design, get our infrastructure in the ground, get out of the way, so when ADOT got in there, we're not tearing up their recently put in improvements, or even worse, conflicting with them during construction. This pipeline was identified by the model. It's going to ultimately provide more reliability to send water to the east, to the future Zone 56 tank, and then subsequently to the Zone 7 tank. And if you don't know, Zone 7 serves a lot of businesses along the SR 69 corridor, including Costco, the Gateway Mall, Walmart, other businesses in that area. So it's a really good reliability project for us, and we're excited to move it forward. The city received 3 responsive bids for this project, and we already held a pre-construction meeting with the apparent low bidder, Technology Construction, Inc. With that, we're recommending award to Technology Construction, Inc., and additionally, I wanted to note that the contract with Entellus, it was marked as A3, as the clerk noted, but in the memo it said A1. Amendment A1, Amendment A2, they were simple time extensions. I'm happy to report we haven't exceeded any design costs on this one. So with that, we're recommending award, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Eric. Questions, comments from the council? Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I just wanted to emphasize this is a very important commercial corridor, and we need to keep up with future development along that corridor. So I just wanted to thank you for your foresight.
Absolutely.
Councilman Good.
Thank you, Eric. And I appreciate the fact that you want to rapidly get out of ADOT's way, because we know how quickly they move. So good idea, and I'm sure it's going to be a great project, especially with you handling it. So thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else, council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve city contract number 2021-108.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
I move to approve city contract number 2019-236A1.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thanks, Eric. Let's go to item C, please.
Approval of city contract number 2021-173 with Granite Basin Engineering, Inc. for the Penn Avenue Eastwood Drive Improvements Project.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Craig Dossett, Public Works. So this project, this item, is to present and request approval for a new professional services contract with Granite Basin Engineering for the Penn Avenue Eastwood Drive Improvements projects. I have the vicinity map up on the screen here as well, and I emphasize new professional services contract. The original design for the Penn Eastwood improvements, including the regional detention basin, were completed in August of 2019. With that design, then there were several other utility companies that had aging and or conflicting utilities within the corridor of this that needed to be replaced and or realigned. So since that time, CenturyLink, APS, Arizona Public Service, and Unisource Energy Services have all relocated and are reconstructed their utilities in here. So now our existing design identifies and shows all of the old utilities that they had. So this contract is to allow our design engineer to update our plans with all the new as-built information from those 3 utility companies so that our plans have all of the most current and accurate information for our design contract and our contracting community building bidding on this project, as well as then it will include post-design services for them to capture all of our as-built information as we go forward with the construction project and create the as-built plans when we're done, and ADEQ approval, everything that goes with the replacement of the water and sewer with it. So with award, if this is approved today, then completion of the updated plans is scheduled for the week of July 26th. That will allow us to go out to bid for construction requests for the project. So completion of the bidding would be August 30th, and then that will allow us to bring a construction contract back to you with anticipated construction completion in July of 2022. So the long-awaited Penn Eastwood project is getting one step closer to becoming reality. That I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Very good. Thank you, Craig. We'll entertain questions and comments from the council. Councilmember Rusing?
Yes, I'm just asking for some clarification. So is this new water mains, new sewer mains? What does this involve?
This is complete replacement of the water system, the sewer system, new improvements for drainage, totally new pavement, curb and gutter throughout the project extents, as well as the regional detention basin right in the center of the exhibit, the larger area, very similar to what was built in Acker Park.
Are there any plans for sidewalks since you're doing new roads?
There are some sidewalks. I would be speaking out of turn, though, if I told you they were throughout. I don't believe it's in the entire area.
Do you think sidewalks would be a necessary, needed amenity in that area?
When we get to the southern portions up in the Eastwood area, it's an extremely narrow corridor. Our right-of-way is very narrow. The way the subdivision was laid out, where the houses are, if we're not including it, it's because of those limitations, and it would be so cost prohibitive in many cases for us to add things like that. We have to balance the ability to achieve that addition versus the cost and impact to the neighborhood.
Because the reason why I'm asking is it just seems recently, I guess since the weather's nice, I see so many people walking in the streets, in the bike paths, because there are no sidewalks, even in, along West Gurley. So I was just asking if we're planning for pedestrian traffic and going to accommodate them with some sidewalks in that project.
We try to as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments from the council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2021-173.
Second.
We have a first and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's move on to, thank you, Craig. Let's move on to item D.
Adoption of ordinance number 2021-1760, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, authorizing the sale of real property to Yavapai Humane Society and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said sale.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tyler Goodman from the City Manager's Office. The microphone doesn't seem to be picking up today. This is the property here that we will be discussing. This is the sale of a portion of city real property, a total of 13.34 acres. This is currently where a portion of the Yavapai Humane Society is, as well as the hillside above it there. Per city code, the city published a notice of sale once per week for 3 weeks in April. That was done on April 4th, 11th, and 18th, before the closing of bids on April 22nd. The Yavapai Humane Society was the only bidder, and the bid offer is $600,000 plus all closing and escrow costs. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council? Councilmember Rusing?
It looks like this sale will generate probably a little under $600,000 because we've got closing costs and kind of thing.
The Humane Society will cover, as part of the contract, the sale agreement, I should say, they will cover the closing costs.
Okay, and then my question is this money going to be earmarked for anything in particular? I was thinking about using this $600,000 towards note that we're taking out for our new city hall, because we are trying to, generate some income to pay off that note as quick as possible. I'm just wondering if there are any plans.
It's completely reasonable to decide that the $600,000 could be earmarked towards repaying any internal loan. If that is council's will, there's certainly no reason not to do it.
Okay. Can I make a motion now, or should we postpone that?
I thought we already talked about this, that all sale of real property would go to paying the debt down. Did we not?
We did.
I think when we did discuss that, it was primarily focused on the real property that's going to be disposed of that would apply to the agencies that are going to be moving into City Hall. But quite frankly, I think this is something that I would like to support, because the more and more rapidly we can pay down that internal loan, the better. So I would like to support Councilmember Rusing's motion that she's going to make.
Well, thank you.
To make it clear, though, when we were talking about this, I mentioned properties that we could dispose of in Chino Valley, Paulden, and all other areas to pay the debt down.
Sure.
So it wasn't just City Hall and the engineering building and the lawyer's building. So any properties. I think it's already been on the board, but if it needs to be a motion, that's fine too.
I don't know, John, what's your recollection? I just remember we did make that motion previously.
I think it was pretty broad, but as Councilmember Blair just said, I don't think it hurts.
Sure.
If you make a motion to approve the ordinance, I don't know if we necessarily use the term earmark. I would defer to Woodfill as to the. Is he here? Mark?
He stepped out.
I think Mark might have stepped out.
I mean, I suppose
it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the term earmark. I would just say with the proceeds being used to pay down the internal loan for the purchase of the new City Hall building.
Could be coupled with this motion?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's what the council.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would just like to say, our purchase of the City Hall is very high profile, and it is, it's a big loan, and we said that we were going to try and pay it off as quick as possible with the sale of our real estate. So here's a real estate oriented.
I think you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Councilman Good, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Councilman Good, did you have anything else? I wanted to make sure. Okay.
I was going to suggest the same thing, but
yep.
Councilmember Rusing beat me to the punch.
Yep. Anything else from the council on this? Okay. Public comment?
No, Mayor.
All right. Well, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the motion that the sale of the real property.
Well, hold on. We have to approve the ordinance first. Otherwise, there is no sale.
I think you can do this motion and then add what you would like in terms of paying the debt down.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 2021-1760.
With a stipulation.
Authorizing the sale of real property to Yavapai Humane Society with the stipulation that the proceeds of the sale go towards paying down the debt for our City Hall loan.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and second. Please vote.
Pass the 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to item E, please.
Approval of City Contract Number 2020-143A2, an amendment to City Contract Number 2020-143 with Wildan Engineering for ongoing building support services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Brent Stotler with Community Development. As you probably recall, back in January of 20, you all awarded a contract to Wildan Engineering for building support services. This includes building inspection services in our production builder neighborhoods, as well as outsourced plan review and some permit tech coordination from their end on the plan review piece. We amended that contract one time to extend it through this fiscal year, and we had kind of a perfect storm of staffing issues in community development in the first quarter and very beginning of the second quarter. Our lead building inspector left rather unexpectedly in mid-February, and then we had our CBO move on in early April. This really crippled our plan review folks, mainly because the former CBO really handled a regular routine volume of plan review as well. So we not only didn't have him available to cover plan review as it increased in volume, we also were down that one inspector. Thankfully, we had this contract to fall back on, and I want to thank you all for seeing that and knowing that we would probably need support services at some point, and this really did save us. We were able to immediately assign a second Wildan inspector to our production neighborhoods and overflow in the other areas of inspection as well. Inspection services cost about $10,000 a month for the average 6 to 7 hour day. And fortuitously, Wildan also does not bill us for their travel time. So we do have an advantage there. We went through the plan review queue, Chelsea Walton and I did, with a fine-tooth comb. We ended up during this time outsourcing about 55 to 60 additional plan reviews to Wildan. So basically the amendment to the contract is to cover services that were needed at a time when we were seriously understaffed and without a leadership position to cover some of the volume. Somewhat ironically, the 2 plan review positions had approved PTO in April. That wasn't concurrent, thank goodness, but were consecutive weeks. So we went 3 weeks without full-time plan review staffing during a time when we didn't have any backup. So that really is what this amendment is about, to fund the services that we've received in the interim and to help us finish out the year with Wildan. And I'll respond to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Brian. Questions, comments from the council? All right. Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, move to approve number 2020-143A2, amendment
Second.
to City Council contract number 2020-143.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thanks, Bren. All right. Item F, please.
Approval of COVID-19 vaccine administration reimbursement for Spectrum Healthcare Group and Dignity Health Yavapai Regional Medical Center in the amount of $200,000.
Good afternoon once again, Mayor and Council. Tyler Goodman with the City Manager's Office. Earlier this year, the Council approved a reimbursement of up to $100,000 per healthcare provider, vaccinating at least 2,000 people per week against COVID-19. At this point, we have Spectrum Healthcare Group and Dignity Health YRMC that have applied for the full amount each, $100,000 each, for their expenses directly associated to administering those programs to vaccinate Quad City residents from COVID-19. At the time of application, both have met the threshold, the requirements that the council set forth, and at the time of application, Spectrum had expended just over $370,000, and Dignity Health YRMC had expended just over $238,000. I double-checked. Spectrum has received $50,000 from the city of Cottonwood, but nothing else, and Dignity YRMC has not received any other reimbursement at this point. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Tyler. I know that we had pushed on this pretty hard early on in the process. Then we had heard that the county was going to do something, so we kind of backed off. And so for the public to know that, we didn't forget about this, but we were waiting on another government entity to maybe help these groups that had done such a fantastic job. And so I think the council had hoped that this would have gone out sooner, but that's kind of the story of why we're here today and not earlier. So appreciate you bringing this back to us. Questions, comments from the council? Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my appreciation, I think our appreciation to Yavapai County Regional Medical Center and Spectrum for stepping up and helping our community get these vaccinations into arms, because it was just an outstanding effort with volunteers, and the whole community supported them. And any way we can do it, we should do it.
Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mayor. I know, Tyler, you and I talked about this, and there was some kind of delay in determining how much the city could provide based upon an expectation that the county would be able to also step in. Can you talk about what you were able to find out regarding that situation?
About the delay in timing and providing this? Yeah, so the Yavapai County, I spoke with David McAtee over there, and we've been trying to stay in touch about their plans to provide a reimbursement at some level. They had not determined an amount or a process quite yet. And because of that, over the last couple of months, we've waited. They were initially planning on using the CARES funding, which came through quite a while back and had less strings attached to use locally. That money was expended and by other means, so they're looking at using the ARP money that's forthcoming to provide some level of reimbursement. Because we're all kind of gray on how we can use that money, they're still in the process of trying to figure that out. So we decided to carry this forward now.
Yeah, I talked to our county supervisor, and that ARP money was pretty restricted to only prospective potential future costs, and not allowed to be used for retrospective costs and expenses like this. So, it's kind of unfortunate that the county decided to use their CARES money for other purposes rather than the legitimate reimbursement of these two really significant efforts. So, be that as it may, I think they, both Spectrum and YRMC, ended up with substantial costs, and I think it's appropriate that we had set aside this amount and we apply it to their efforts. I know they both of them had $250,000, $300 and some $1,000 in expenses. So being able to reimburse them for many of our local residents getting those vaccination inoculations, in addition to other members of the community, I think is appropriate. So I'm glad we were able to at least make a significant contribution to their efforts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Spectrum and YRMC for their efforts. In my role at PUSD, I was able to work directly with Spectrum and April and Sunshine and Jade over at Spectrum and planning a clinic for PUSD staff, which was very, very successful. And they're a great group, and it was super easy, and I know a huge relief for a lot of our staff to be able to get vaccinated so early in the process as well. And they set up shop pretty quick, turned on a dime, and did it very smoothly and successfully. And I'm grateful that was accessible to our community, especially being quote unquote a rural area, to have such great access to vaccines this quickly was really, really great. And so I'm very grateful for their presence and their contribution.
Councilman Tenney.
I just wanted to echo some of the thoughts that Councilman Scholl just expressed, that we in PUSD were able to set up some clinics as a result of these organizations, particularly Spectrum, stepping up, and we had a much higher vaccination rate within our district than we've had Arizona statewide, and part of that is because of the accessibility and whatnot. I was reading in the paper the other day, Arizona has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the United States. Maybe it goes back to what Councilman Good was saying earlier about advertising. Maybe there's something great available. People just need to take advantage. Maybe it wasn't advertised well enough. It's hard to say, but we really appreciate the efforts of both Spectrum and YRMC in this respect.
Anything else from the council? Public comment?
No, Mayor.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve reimbursement of $100,000 to Spectrum Healthcare Group and $100,000 to Dignity Health Yavapai Regional Medical Center.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Tyler. Let's go to item G.
Legislative update.
As you know, or hopefully you know, the legislature is working hard on the budget, and hard in this sense is not good because it's getting worse for cities and towns. In fact, today they're still probably having proceedings right now. The House and the Senate are hosting appropriation committees talking about, there's 11 different budget bills covering a variety of topics. The two bills that concern cities and towns are House Bill 2900 and Senate Bill 1828. They are still working on a flat tax of 2.5%. It'd be phased in over 3 years. It's a reduction of between 1.7 and 2.1 billion. There's an increased amount of loss to the cities. 285 million is now the projected. And I just found the numbers. This isn't accurate now, but the city of Prescott at max, once it's fully implemented, would be about 2.18 million per year. The League of Cities and Towns hired an economist to perform a report, the Jim Rounds report, and he found that in order to hold cities harmless at that threshold that they're talking about, the dollar amount of cuts, we would need to increase our shared revenue percentage from 15% to between 18.2 and 18.9%. I don't think anybody realistically believes that that's going to happen. I think the goal was to get somewhere in between to mitigate the loss. It is the simplest way to hold cities harmless. Besides that, there is a proposal as part of the budget to hold cities, I would say, very, very partially harmless for 3 years, starting in fiscal year 24. In that year, they would look at doing a direct payment based on population back to cities. For fiscal years 25 and 26, they would compare the aggregate data, the income data from those years to FY22, and they would pay the cities the difference. This would be an appropriation, which we all know can be stripped at any moment through the budget process. So that's really concerning. And there are some things, there's a few more bullet points there, kind of breaking down how it would work with income tax, Prop 208. Again, they are talking about it as we speak. In fact, before I stood up from my desk, they were in the middle of talking about House Bill 2900. And the belief is that it will make it out of committee and get to the floor. There may not be the votes. There's at least one or two holdouts in each chamber that could tie up the votes to not allow it to pass. So what I'm hearing is if the bills don't pass the floor of each chamber by Wednesday or Thursday of this week, we're doing pretty good. It means that there is still some strong likelihood that a compromise of some sort could be made, but we just don't know. So we're all on pins and needles, but that's the update. For the other bills that I've included, they are there from previous weeks. They haven't moved. Everybody's focused on the budget. And so that's the information I have for today. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. Regarding the budget, from what I know, as you already mentioned, none of the Democrats are supporting it. And Representative Cook in the House is not at this point, or at least as of yesterday, wasn't supporting it, nor was Senator Boyer over on the Senate side. So therefore, to your point, they don't have the votes.
That is true.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I left my desk, it was Representative Cook testifying in that committee against 2900. So as of today, he's still actively against it.
Well, and some of it is the pork that's in there as well, you know, that there's a concern about. Of course, when you start stripping that out, then you start to lose votes.
Yeah. Yes.
Questions, comments from the council? Okay. All right. Very thorough. Good job, Tyler.
Thank you.
All right. The quote today is from Helen Keller. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. This meeting is adjourned.